that's spot on. And certainly I didn't realize that heading in and how that would just change everything for me. But that has meant everything to me to have those opportunities. And now as a leader, 15 plus years later, that's my selling point when I'm recruiting people. I'm committed to paying back that same type of environment where I'm going to hire you as an employment lawyer, or I'm going to hire you as an SEC lawyer, but my goal is to grow you and throw other things at you if that's what you want. And those are the people who I think thrive on my teams, and those are the people who I love working with, who are saying, yeah, just give me anything and I'll go do it.
Welcome to Becoming the GC, the podcast that dives deep into the journeys of general counsels and chief legal officers, uncovering the insights and strategies that help define their success. Hosted by Joe Schul, founder of Inside Counsel Academy. We share real-life stories and practical advice from successful GCs, guiding you on your journey to the top. Tune in and discover what it takes to become the exceptional legal leader your organization needs.
This is Joe Schul. Today's guest is David Shapiro, the general counsel who has shaped legal strategy and culture at major companies like DaVita, Vail Resorts, and Ibotta. I know you're going to be inspired by hearing his journey. We talk about how binge watching legal dramas as a kid actually set David on the path to becoming a litigator, and why he never doubted his calling. You'll hear how a spur-of-the-moment decision to take a government job ended up changing the entire trajectory of his career. And we dig into David's philosophy on leadership, why he believes growing and stretching your team is the surest path to long-term success. Here's David's bio. David Shapiro is a seasoned legal executive whose career has spanned private practice at top law firms, significant public service at the Department of Justice, and transformative in-house leadership roles. At DaVita, he rose to Chief Compliance Officer and then General Counsel. At Vail Resorts, he led the legal team through major growth and acquisitions, including the landmark Whistler Blackcomb deal. He's currently the General Counsel of Ibotta, where he's helping lead the company through its transition to a public company and beyond. So with that, let's get to the interview. Great. Hi, David. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe. Great to see you.
It's great to see you. I'm excited to talk to you. You are someone, you and I overlapped for a period of time at DaVita. We both worked for Kent Theory. You then went on to Vail. We're going to hear all about that, where you worked for Rob Katz. These are two, sort of larger than life CEOs, and I can't wait to hear about your journey along the way. But let's go back in time and sort of start more closer to the beginning. We were talking, you grew up in Connecticut, went to undergrad and law school there. And then what was your, during law school, what were you thinking your career path might be like as a lawyer?
Yeah, I always was focused on litigation. It always surprised me to meet friends and make friends in law school, and they didn't know what they wanted to do, or even they wanted to be deal lawyers. I had no desire to do anything other than be a litigator. That's why I went to law school. That's what I focused on in law school, and that's what I pursued in the early years after law school. There was never any consideration for anything else.
Right on. Well, with that, then I want to go back further in time, like before you said coming into law school, like when did you first want to be a litigator? What was it that you saw or experienced that made you want to go down that path?
Yeah, I wish I had a great story of the involvement in some court procedure, but unfortunately, I suspect like many litigators and folks who go to law school, I really liked legal dramas. I watched way too many episodes of Law and Order, whether it was My Cousin Vinny or A Few Good Men. I just gravitated towards those movies. I knew it was a potentially good career, and that's what led me down that path. Not the best reason to go to law school, but ultimately, it worked out okay.
Those are two great movies. We all want to be Tom Cruise, maybe not as much Joe Pesci, although he was hilarious in that movie. So that's great. And so upon graduation, then what was your first role?
Yeah, I went to a firm, Kelly Dry and Warren, which was a New York-based firm, a very large firm at the time. and was doing a variety of commercial litigation. Again, didn't really know quite what I was getting into. I remember I didn't actually have a place to live my first week.
I was going to ask you, did you move into the city? And
yeah, well, so I was in their office in Stamford, Connecticut, so in southern Connecticut. And I didn't have a place to live. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'll probably be doing training and stuff those first couple of weeks. And yeah, that first day I stayed till probably 2 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know that I ever went home much earlier than that. And it was like jump right in and writing motions and pleadings, and it never let up.
Right. This is why it's nice to have a sofa in the
yeah.
office, 'cause, hey, why pay rent?
I did eventually get a place and had a great roommate, and we never saw each other.
Yeah. All right. Well, keep going. So at some point you go, you take a government job at the Department of Justice. Was there anything in between there?
Yeah, I did spend all of my early life in Connecticut. I loved Connecticut, had a great experience there, but I did wake up around 29 years old or so and say, I think I should go live somewhere else, and started pursuing other jobs. Really, really wanted to be in the government. I wanted to be a prosecutor of some sort. I thought that would be an amazing career opportunity. I realized that a lot of the older litigators in the big firms spoke most fondly of their days in the government, and There must have been a reason for that. So I moved to DC with another firm. And worked at that firm, Mintz Levin, which is a large firm out of Boston, for I think 4 years or so. And again, awesome experience, really was going well. And then a job came available at the Department of Justice, and it wasn't really on my radar at the time. I'd just gotten married, just bought a house in DC, and sort of on a track of I'm going to be in this law firm forever, and upended everything and took this job at Justice. And that was probably the biggest career move I made and the biggest change I made that really changed the trajectory of my career from there. Great experience and just great momentum from that experience.
What's it like going from private practice into the government? Is that a pay cut? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so that's what I was subtly alluding to by changing my path in life and my very, very understanding wife. There was a massive pay cut. And given the timing, I think I even walked away from my year-end bonus, having had probably my best year. But it was an investment, right?
It was something totally.
That I always wanted to do. I mean, when I was early in my career at Kelly Dry, I would go home at lunch and watch Law and Order. I mean, that's what I was like, God, I really want to be doing that and pursue that interest and passion. So it's a huge change economically. It's a huge change sort of structurally, in the sense of, if you're in a law firm, you are the epicenter of the economics. You go to the government, that those resources just aren't there. That support's not there. But what's really cool is the cause you wake up for every single morning. You feel like you're doing justice, you're doing good, and people are there with a mindset of really loving the law and really wanting to do good in the world. And it was, great camaraderie and just awesome experience.
Did anything? Yeah, that's great. Did anything surprise you, like that you weren't expecting?
God, it's a great question. Not really. It played out the way I thought it would, where just great people doing really good work. I still worked really, really hard. But everyone was really committed to the cause. I loved it. I just, liked, the process of it.
Yeah. And did you have good mentors?
I did. I had good technical mentors. I think law firms and in the DOJ, I had good technical, hey, here's how you write a motion. Probably the, early years, here's how you work hard. But it wasn't really until going in-house that I have mentors that really, I think, changed who I am as a professional, and frankly, as a father and partner to my wife.
Awesome. Well, let's go there. So tell us about the transition back out of the DOJ.
Yeah, I left Justice. I actually did a short stint at another firm. And really being in-house was never on my radar. I thought I sort of had completed my resume. I've had this great experience in the government, working on healthcare fraud cases. I was very fortunate to work with a very well-known group of attorneys out of Philadelphia doing really big cases, and had some good momentum out of a case that had a lot of publicity around it, certainly in the healthcare area.
Mm.
And our former company, DaVita, reached out, and it's an interesting story, and I didn't respond to the recruiter reaching out several times. And we won't get into the details, but I had a bad day. And I happened.
This is why they keep calling.
This is why they keep calling. I mean, it's a great lesson of leadership, of how important it is. Like, every day matters. I felt misaligned on a personal issue with the firm, and took the call. And one thing led to another. I'm like, wow, this could be even a more interesting experience, to go in-house. And I had two game plans, Joe. One game plan was, I'm just going to go through the interview process. They're going to be so impressed with me that they'll just hire me as outside counsel.
Oh,
and I don't
there you go. Right. Sure.
That didn't quite work out. And the second was, I'll do this for a year or two, and then I'll go back to private practice. And my resume will be really complete, because I'll have worked in the government, having, prosecuted these healthcare fraud cases. I'll have worked in-house, managing them, and I'll have worked in private practice, defending them. But I never left in-house practice. Once I was in, it really spoke to me on so many different levels that, loved being in-house, and I can't imagine a different career path at this point.
Okay, great. What did you love about it?
Yeah, I think a handful of things. One is just the broader experience. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm going to do these types of litigation cases for the rest of my career. You develop deep expertise, and that's wonderful, and that appeals to many people. What I didn't recognize, and what I developed, I think, by going in-house, is how cool and fulfilling it could be to do a whole bunch of different things once you're in-house. So I've done internal audit, I've done health and safety, I've done government affairs, and these are things that you just wouldn't do if you're outside counsel. So having that broader experience has just led to a more fulfilling career for me. Yeah. I think second, the impact you can have and really change things. I think there's a positive aspect to being outside counsel, writing a great memo and having some great guidance, giving it to your client, and somewhat of like, good luck with that. And I love the fact that I can take that guidance, I can implement that guidance and see it through and have a real impact. And I've seen that at a variety of different jobs I've had, where the work I've done has had a direct impact on the trajectory of that enterprise and business. And that's super fulfilling. So those are a couple things that stand out to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you get included in a lot of things where you can really make an impact beyond what maybe you were hired for, when you're not getting paid by the hour, when people aren't thinking about, sort of the meters running. And now we've got this, really smart person we hired over here to solve this problem, but there's no reason we can't, if they're interested, they can solve a lot of problems for us.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate to work with CEOs who have that mindset.
And that was kind of that's kind of like coming into DaVita, right? I mean, at that time I was the general counsel. You got hired into the compliance department,
yes,
and then became chief compliance officer. Your role got broader and broader, which then allowed you to be a great candidate for a big GC job that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, no, that's spot on, and certainly I didn't realize that heading in, and how that would just change everything for me. But that has meant everything to me, to have those opportunities, and now as a leader, 15 plus years later, that's my selling point when I'm recruiting people. I'm committed to paying back that same type of environment where I'm going to hire you as an employment lawyer, or I'm going to hire you as an SEC lawyer, but my goal is to grow you and throw other things at you if that's what you want. And those are the people who I think thrive on my teams, and those are the people who I love working with, who are saying, yeah, just give me anything and I'll go do it.
Right. It's most lawyers, like, and even if they'd gotten out of that mode, they were once attracted, like law school after college, whether you've worked in between or not, is a period of intense growth. And so it attracts people who thrive on learning and growing their skills, et cetera. And so, yeah, like tapping into that, most people in this profession are really going to respond.
Yeah.
And want to over deliver, you know.
Yes.
That's what makes it so great. So, yeah. Were you doing healthcare litigation before you went to the Justice Department?
I was. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was doing a lot of nursing home defense work.
Okay.
The firm I was at was national counsel for one of the largest nursing home chains. And so we served as sort of a national counsel managing a bunch of cases throughout the country. Had a chance to do some of those cases in the DC area. And they're great cases to learn how to litigate on. They're heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching cases. But that was my entry to healthcare.
Do you think that experience affected you when you went into the Department of Justice? Like, some people I talk to who start at the Department of Justice and then they go into private practice later, they're like, well, it really gave me a different view, right? And maybe I wouldn't have been so skeptical of, of everything.
Yeah.
You kind of had it ahead of time.
I hear you. I'd say more so now than going in. So going in, I certainly had a defense mindset, but very quickly, I would say became, maybe a little overly zealous, advocating for the government.
In retrospect.
In retrospect, right. Sitting on the defense side now for a company side for 15 years. But, I can think to a couple of cases where you heard stories of people doing this and doing that. Mm-hmm. And when you're, early 30s, couple years into law, and you're with all of these seasoned DOJ lawyers who have spent their career in DOJ, and all you see is the bad stuff, right? So 100% of what you're seeing is the bad stuff.
Right. Yeah.
You just think everything is bad.
Yeah.
And I look back on some of the facts that I think drove a lot of those cases and say, well, now I could kind of understand and have a little bit more perspective of someone could say something that a year later in an email doesn't sound great, but doesn't mean they were trying to. I'm far more understanding now. Maybe it's some of its age and
for your own emails.
Right. my own emails. Just kind of having that perspective. But it also is so valuable over the years to have that government perspective and be able to say to in-house business leaders of, hey, this is how this is going to look. Oh, no, don't worry. No, I'm just telling you, this is how it's going to look. And so we need to think through this. And I think that's been one of the keys to my success, is having that DOJ experience and that mindset of skepticism, as you called it. And it's been very helpful.
Yeah, it gives you the authority from experience. So people will listen more because you had that experience. But I think equally important, because you've had the experience, you're much more certain that the advice you're giving needs to be listened to, and that conveys authority.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. In fact, that was a little problem for me, a big challenge for me in the early years at DaVita. I didn't have enough distance from DOJ, and I still had that mindset of everything is black and white and don't do this. And I came on very strong. One of the senior leaders there had a chat with me of like, maybe you just need to tone it down, like get to know people a little bit better and develop relationships and think through these scenarios before everything is so black and white. And that was a big shift for me, because that's not how you are necessarily when you're a young person in the Department of Justice. And that was a forcing mechanism for me to think more broadly about these situations.
Yeah, wise advice, but I bet it was hard because, like at that time and perhaps still because so much of the of the business model in a dialysis company is government pay.
Yeah.
It was a heavily scrutinized environment. So it wasn't just theoretical,
Yes. And I was at the epicenter of that.
Right, exactly. I remember.
Yeah.
So before we pivot, all this time we've been talking up to this point, are you a skier?
I am a skier. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wasn't. I wasn't a skier until I moved to Colorado. I think I was about 40.
Okay.
I had never skied.
Yeah.
And I had never mountain biked. And now every weekend I am either skiing or mountain biking.
Wow.
We moved here and I said, all right, my kids have to learn how to ski.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was doing. But I knew I had cousins back east who knew how to ski, and my kids had to ski better than my nephews and nephews if we were going to live in Colorado.
Do you ski back east at all now?
I have skied maybe once back east.
Okay. It's a lot hard. It's harder.
It's harder. It's like a brick and it's icy and it's not.
Right.
Yeah. And I love bringing friends who I grew up with and went to school with from the east of Colorado. And between the altitude and the powder, they get hammered pretty quick.
Makes you look pretty good. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned to ski when I turned 40 too.
Yeah.
So a whole chat about that on a different podcast maybe. But it's it's one of the greatest sports.
It is.
And especially with family because you're spending all day outside in nature having fun.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to be on the phone during
That's like a good commercial. Maybe some ski company should put that out. Because it's true, right? In the ski lift time, the 5 to 8 minutes of talking and like it's wonderful.
It's like built in, all these built-in things, and then afterwards you get to have a nice meal and warm up.
Yeah,
take your boots off. Feels great.
Yeah.
So tell us then about that transition. I mean, when you were still at DaVita, did you start thinking I'd like to go even broader and become a GC?
Yeah. So short answer is yes. And I loved DaVita. I mean, DaVita changed my life in so many ways, more so than any other experience I've had, hands down.
Yeah.
And had a great run there. But I needed a change, and I had this change of jobs. So I went from the chief compliance officer to this new department I created called the Office of Special Counsel, and then I was the general counsel for the kidney care business. But I didn't own it all, and I wanted to own it all. I wanted to have that full responsibility on my shoulders and scope, and so I wasn't really looking. But if you want to be a public company, GC, in Colorado at a certain scale, there's only a handful of companies you can work at. And then I heard about the Vail opportunity and got connected with Rob Katz, and we just hit it off very quickly. And it happened very quickly.
I mean, you and I both were pretty young at DaVita. I was 36 when I became the GC. I think you're a little younger than me, so maybe it was probably similar age when you became chief compliance officer. But I look at, and Kent was, pretty young when he became CEO. So I think he was willing to, take a chance on younger people. And then I was looking at Rob Katz's bio. He was really young.
Yeah.
I think when I did the math, he was like 29 when he was on the board.
He was. So he worked at Apollo, and Apollo was the major investor for Vail. And so he was the Apollo rep on that board. But yeah, he was really young.
Yeah. 10 years later, then he comes in as CEO.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know how much time after that then that you joined the team.
A good time later.
Okay. Was the I keep wanting to say Icon Pass, but that would really get me in trouble.
Yeah.
Was the Epic Pass already invented?
It was several years in. And I started with 11 ski resorts.
Okay.
And over my tenure, I left, I think we had 42 ski resorts.
Okay. Okay.
And so while I couldn't tell you right now the number of Epic passes that increased, it was a huge shift because as we were bringing online additional resorts, those people are going into the Epic Pass. So there was
that becomes their annual pass.
Great growth.
Yeah. So when you gave notice at DaVita, but before you start the job, how much time was there in between?
A couple of weeks maybe.
Okay, a couple of weeks. What are you thinking during that time? Like, this is a completely different industry.
Yeah. I
How'd you get yourself ready for that?
And I'm not really a skier.
Not yet, but yeah.
I mean, and I'll get to your question, but just as a quick side note, like I started in the late spring. And so I was there for, 3 months later for the season opener. And I had only skied a couple of years and a couple of times a year. And one of the major lifts was a brand new lift. And so the whole executive team goes skiing and we get to the top and I'm frozen. Like there's no way. And they're all flying down. And I think, I don't know if she was the president at the time, but she ultimately became the president. It was like this most kind gesture of sensing it, which is like, I'm kind of talking about it because it's also a moment of leadership of like, hey, why don't you follow me and come with me? And she took me down an easier way.
Yeah.
And yeah, that moment captured all the lead up time of like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? I don't really know anything about skiing. I don't know anything about hospitality. So yeah, you get ready by rolling up your sleeves and diving in. And even though I wasn't hired for my litigation experience, it's the litigator's mindset, I would say, of, yeah, I know how to see a fact pattern and see a subject matter and dive in. And so whether it's a health issue at a dialysis clinic or a nursing home or a complex Medicare payment scheme that we're working on, or some other kind of, statute or regulation, I just, I feel like I've learned and litigators learn how to dive into something. So you start spending time on the mountain, you spend time in the hospitality venues and you learn it and you realize, yeah, today I literally don't understand a thing they're talking about in the meetings. And at some point, right, and you've probably been there, whether it's 9 months or 12 months or whatever it is, all of a sudden a sentence comes out of your mouth and you're like, oh, wow. I actually know what I'm talking about now. And you just hope that, that time period from I have no idea to making that great statement, it's not, you truncate it as much as possible.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, so during the interview process, I assume, are you a skier? Do you have a passion for the mountains, et cetera?
Yeah. The interview process is a really good story, Joe. So I got in, I was having lunch with someone in town. I had heard that Vail was looking and I said, hey, do you know Rob Katz? Can you make an introduction? Makes an introduction. I talked to Rob. He asked me to come in that week and I say, I can't, I'm traveling. How about next week? I'm sorry, I'm traveling. Let's get together. It was leading up to Memorial Day weekend. I'll talk to you after the holiday. He said, okay, I'll talk to you, but I'm going to make someone else the offer in the meantime. So that's fine. I said, okay, well, how about I come in Friday night? And how many, I just was doing it naturally, but I'm shocked at given how many people I've hired, over the years and interviewed, how they're not willing to do stuff like that. And so I went in on Friday night and we sat there for 2 hours.
This is before Memorial Day? So okay. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 weeks before Memorial Day. And
but it's so that we at least have a chance to talk before you decide.
Yes. And so I go in and we don't talk about litigation prowess. We don't talk about deals. We talk about leadership the entire time. And as you know, coming from DaVita, I'm like,
oh my gosh,
bring it on. Like you're and that we just connected over what does it mean to lead a team and how do you think about those things? And, I was very candid with him and said, I'm not an SEC corporate governance guy. If that's what you want, you should go hire that person. That's an important skill set, but this is what I do. I'm a risk person. I'm a leader of teams. I can do A, B, and C for you, but I wasn't going to try and pretend was a corporate governance or even a deal lawyer because I hadn't done a deal at that point either. And we just hit it off. I spent the weekend interviewing. I came back the next weekend, interviewed some more, and had the offer.
Wow. Yeah. And you could
fast.
speak very confidently about what you could do, which was leadership, because leadership was front and center of everything we did at DaVita.
Yeah.
So many people, have gone on to lead organizations as CEOs, as GCs, as all kinds of things, because of that experience that we had. Yeah. So that's great. And then obviously that was the right decision because all that other stuff you figured out.
Right. We can all figure it out. And if you can't, you hire someone and they figure it out. And I think that's one of the signs of good GC is you don't have to, you can't, when we're general,
right. It's in the name.
You have to be a generalist. You have to be able to take in that information, process it, and distill it. Because a lot of the technical experts, they're wonderful and they're essential, but they struggle distilling it to a handful of bullet points for your CEO to understand. And I feel like that's where I've earned my credit at that point of I do that for the executive team.
Yeah, no question. And you've been in probably nowhere was that more important than in a company like DaVita. So you really become just an expert at that, and it was required, right?
Yes.
Yet, it was absolutely expected and required to be successful there. So what were some of the most interesting things then that you started working on when you got to Vail?
I think the first one would be the acquisition of Whistler Blackcomb. So came to work on my first day, had my first day meeting with my CEO. He said, "Oh, take it easy today, for the first couple of months, like, this is a long-term play. We're in no hurry to do anything." Then he came into my office a few days later, shut the door and said, "Forget everything I told you on Monday. We're going to go buy Whistler." So Whistler is the
great.
biggest mountain in North America. It was a Canadian public company at the time. It turned out to be $1 billion plus deal. I had never led a deal before. I never led a public company deal before. So I had my work cut out for me. Fast forward a year plus, it finally closes. And yeah, that was just an amazing experience. And when I was talking earlier in our discussion about impact, I can always look back on that. I can always look back and say, I had a big role in bringing Whistler Blackcomb into the Vail Resorts network and what that meant for the company. I mean, it just catapulted the company.
Right. And that was right after you joined, right? Like, yeah. Interesting. Did you have good outside counsel?
We did have good outside counsel.
Yeah. So you were able to learn the ropes from.
Yeah. I mean, can I sit down today and write an asset purchase agreement? No. Mm-hmm. But I can certainly review it, and I can certainly go through it with my outside counsel. And fast forward 8 years, a much bigger role in the deal process. I had the fortune of, assuming responsibility for actually the biz development as well. So going out and sourcing deals and negotiating the deal.
Wow. Yeah.
And really understanding it. And so when you think about like that opportunity for growth and the change, total credit to my CEO to give me the chance and to my team to create the capacity. As you know, like, you got to have a good team or you can't do those.
Yeah, because the trains have to run on time, in the meantime, when you're off sourcing deals, et cetera. What team did you inherit when you stepped in there?
I inherited a good team, solid team. I forget the exact scale of it. I think maybe there were a dozen lawyers. I think when I left, we probably had about.
It was a mature department. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we changed a lot of the structure and composition and the mix. It was very top heavy when I came in. We really needed more junior folks and to create capacity, and created a different structure, and left. I love that team. It was probably one of the hardest parts of leaving Vail was the team. Just, yeah, they're my people. I loved them.
Yeah, and we'll talk about your transition, but I can't leave Vail without talking about like what were the best perks from being the chief legal officer at Vail.
Yeah, lots of it's the best perk is just the thrill and fulfillment. This is gonna maybe not what you're getting at, but being part of that, creating that experience. We ski at Vail. That's where my family goes. We spent a lot of time there. And skiing around that mountain while I was working for it and seeing the kids having fun and the families having fun, what we were talking about before, and knowing that I helped in some part to create that, whether it's making things safer on the mountain or getting that new lift approved to be installed, like that was the best perk to me. Like that was just fantastic. Yes, I got a free ski ticket. I don't know that that's going to make me or break me as a free ski pass and the ability to use the certain facilities and stuff. But that was very nice. But being part of that creation is just so motivating and so fulfilling. So that to me was the best part.
I love it. Yeah, I mean it's such a beautiful place. When I remember from the first time we met, you telling me about, I'm a runner, and I remember you telling me about having run a marathon. Have you continued to be a runner? Are you a runner? Do you trail run at Vail at all?
Yeah, good memory. I don't run anymore at all. My knees, my backs, cannot handle it. I mountain bike and road bike religiously. So I probably bike 5-6 days a week.
Wow.
Now not every single day outside, but on the weekends, I'm outside every weekend.
That's your thing. I don't know, years ago, but my wife and I ran a race called the Trans Rockies, and it comes up the Vail back bowl, and we spent a night there in Vail. I mean, it was just beautiful. I probably I've skied less there than I've been there in the summer.
Where do you ski? In Tahoe?
We ski at Mammoth.
Mammoth, okay.
Yeah. Southern Californians ski at
right.
Northern Californians ski at Tahoe, just because the way the roads are, what's open and closed in the winter. So yeah.
No, it's not bad being able to ski and then go home and go to the beach.
Yes, it's,
I do miss the water. I have to say, I very much miss seeing the water.
One of the perks. When you joined DaVita, had it already moved to Colorado?
No.
Or was it? Okay.
So I moved to California and lived in California for 2 years.
Okay, you did.
Before I moved to Colorado. Yeah. In fact, when Kent, he called me up one day and said, "Hey, can you come over tonight?" So it was like 11 o'clock at night. I have no idea why I'm going there. I'm very nervous.
To Manhattan Beach, to the company apartment?
Yeah. And he said, I know you just moved here. And I literally had just moved there with my wife, who's like 7 months pregnant, and a 3-year-old. It's like, but I think we're going to relocate the headquarters. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm from Connecticut and I have a palm tree in my front yard right now. Like, I'm not going anywhere. But as things played out, we ended up coming here, and I couldn't be happier here. I love Colorado.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible move. That's around the time that I left, when the company moved to Colorado, and I remember going to the new headquarters once it was built a couple years later, and just being like, I was impressed. I mean, I looked around like, this is really incredible, and what a great place to put it, because Denver and Colorado was just a great choice. Just a great choice. If you like the outdoors and which I do, then that could have been idyllic in another life. So,
now that I'm a native, because I've been here for 15 years, all you West Coasters and East Coasters are moving here since COVID. So it's like, intruding on our time. I mean, I'm hardly a native, but it's a big debate.
No, exactly. You identify as a nutmegger, but I'll always be from the Midwest. No matter how many years I live in Connecticut or LA. I live in LA now, but we spend time in Connecticut. So all right, tell me about when you decide it's time to do something else.
Yeah, it's not, dissimilar from what happened with Ibotta. I mean, with DaVita. I've
Okay.
just had a great run at Vail. I was there for 8 years, and felt I just was kind of ready for a new challenge. I had this great team in place and wanted them to continue to grow. So the person who I was training as my successor, she was ready to take over. She did take over, which was
Great.
amazing. Um, but really, like, I got to know the CEO here, and he called me about, hey, do you know anyone who, might be interested in this position? We're going public.
Mm,
Here's the company. And I'm not really sure he was looking for a referral. He may have just been testing the waters. But as you start having these conversations, it just seemed like, wow, this could be a really cool next step. And it's actually, again, a very dynamic, gifted CEO. He's a lawyer.
oh, yeah.
And yeah, so my work is very difficult. A very credentialed lawyer, including a Supreme Court clerk,
Wow.
and gave up the practice of law to start this company from nothing.
Is
And
that right?
so,
Yeah.
right, you're having these conversations with him, and it's so inspiring to hear the story of someone who's got this amazing career, who has an idea and is willing to take a chance to actually pursue that idea and pursue it to the point of, now I'm ready to, in a decade, basically go public.
Mm.
Uh, and hearing that story, and talking about the potential, it just was super exciting. And there's not a lot of people doing IPOs in the last couple
No,
of
there are
years.
not.
And
Right.
having the chance to do an IPO and
Yeah.
and now build from scratch a team. I mean, there was a team here, a very good team, but build a public company,
Sure.
a team that is going to grow as the company grows. Yeah, which is a really cool challenge and another opportunity.
Can we, anything else you want to say about that? Or I want to pivot to,
Yeah.
we talked about leadership, we talked about developing teams. And so what would you say to people on your team or on anybody's team, somebody who's listening, who is an in-house lawyer, who wants to, someday have a position like the positions that you've had? What would you tell them they need to be doing?
Yeah. There's a couple things. One is, I hope at least my story is one of there's no conventional path. There may be a conventional path, but there's not one set path. And so
That has been so clear from interviewing people for this show. I
Oh,
mean,
it is.
Yeah, I mean, I say it almost every episode now, so I'll stop saying.
No, and that's great to
Like
hear.
everybody
I
has
think,
such a unique background. It's
I
like,
think there's a
there is no
perception you
one
have to
way.
have this. You follow this path of
Yeah.
corporate kind of law, and that's how you become a GC.
That's
and,
what I thought, because that was my path. But
Yeah.
most everybody I interviewed didn't have that path.
Well, that's good to hear. And I think that sort of maybe then goes to my second point, which is what I really try and emphasize is collect experiences. I think early in my career, I was so focused on that lockstep units, which is a very much a law firm mentality of how do you just kind of go up the ladder. And like, that's not it. It's go out there and pursue opportunities and experiences, either new ones or ones within your company that add to your portfolio and make you a richer, deeper, more interesting attorney. And I think about all the things where I've raised my hand and said, "Hey, I'll do that." I was at Vail, and I actually had offered to take over food and beverage because I just always wanted to run a restaurant, and I was told I wasn't really qualified to run food and beverage, but I got health and safety, which is an adjacency to compliance, and that's, you develop this portfolio and you learn how to lead. And I think CEOs and executive teams, boards, they realize, well, that's the skill that we need for GCs. So collect experiences. I think two would be establish a brand, and be known for something. And use that as your ante to get into the room, and I think that really is your calling card, but that doesn't have to limit you if you're collecting experiences. One or two others. One is just I was listening to an interview about I think it was one of the NFL quarterback. It just made me think about how an NFL quarterback has all this stuff pounding down at them, right? These monsters coming at them, and they have to slow it down. They got to calm it down. They got to think about the play. They got to have the vision down the field, and they got to execute. And maybe a conductor of an orchestra might be the same thing. I think that's the skill that a GC needs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you bring calmness to a chaotic world, have the vision down the field, and then execute?
Right.
And learning how to do that in small incremental steps through these collections of experiences and establishing your brand to do that, I think that is how you grow, and that's how you get that opportunity to be a GC one day, or whatever it is you want to do. So I think those are probably my top considerations.
Yeah, I love it. I love the analogy of an NFL quarterback, all these things coming at you, and it is your job as the GC to stay calm, because otherwise you're not going to be effective and get the ball to the right place, or, and that is how the job feels sometimes. Like they're like you're going to get sacked.
Yes.
Great. So here we are. What are you most looking forward to?
I am looking forward professionally to working with Ibotta to just take it to the next level. We had this IPO. Turns out being a public company is challenging, and really working and helping to transform this company into a real powerhouse public company. I think we've got the people, we got the technology and the tools. So we're on the path, but it's a lot of hard work, and I'm looking forward to building the infrastructure to support that. So I think that's top on my list professionally. Personally, my wife and I are getting ready for a little transition, with our daughter getting ready to graduate from college and our son getting ready to go off to college. And what does that mean for us? And how does life work when you don't have your kids to worry about as much? And not that you ever stop worrying about your kids, but it'll be a big change.
Yeah. Well, I just read an article, I think it was in yesterday's Wall Street Journal, about a couple who has been riding a tandem bike across the country once a year. They spend 4 months doing it. So maybe there's some.
No, that's not going to happen. Biking's my time. Maybe we'll play golf together or something. I don't know. But not like.
But it's an exciting inflection point. Yeah, for sure. I'm not there, because I'm half there in that I have two older ones who are launched into the world. They're doing amazingly well. One's married, one's about to get married next year, and then I've got two younger ones, 9th grade and 8th grade. So we're still in the thick of homework and like sports and all kinds of things.
But it is so fun as they reach these milestones in life, and you have your relationship with them changes. And we're just at such an exciting period with both of our kids, where just watching their growth is just fantastic. It's so fun.
It is. It is. Your relationship does change, and like my oldest daughter became a lawyer, so all of a sudden, I had some things that might be interesting to her.
Yeah.
how that works. But I always say too, she's a 3rd year associate. I'm like, she's so far ahead of where I was as a 3rd year associate.
Yeah.
So it's the way of the world too. There's more ways to get informed and information, right? Like when we were young lawyers, that was like an apprenticeship. You're only going to become as good as the people who are teaching you.
Yeah.
Now there's so many more sources that people can tap into in order to help them, develop. So mentors are still very important, but they come from, I think, a wider variety of places.
And dad mentors are particularly important.
Right. The most important. Absolutely. Well, David, it's been a real pleasure reconnecting and hearing about your story. Anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, no, great. This was great, Joe. I really appreciate the invitation, and wonderful to catch up. And thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with David Shapiro. Here are 3 takeaways that really stood out from David's story. First, sometimes the best career moves aren't the obvious ones, like when David left private practice for the Department of Justice, taking a big pay cut for a chance to make an impact and find real meaning in his work. Second, embracing unexpected moments can change everything. David described how a single rough day led him to finally take a recruiter's call. turning what felt like an interruption into a pivotal chapter that shaped his path as an in-house leader. And third, leadership isn't about fixed roles or titles. As David showed both at DaVita and Vail, it's about creating opportunities for your team, challenging them to do more, and always looking for ways to help others grow beyond what they imagined possible. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share the show with a friend. It means a lot to me. And I'd love to connect with you directly. Just search for me, Joseph Scholl, SCHOHL, on LinkedIn. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Becoming the GC. Whether you're preparing for the GC role or looking to sharpen your skills as a sitting general counsel, we hope this episode offered valuable insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed the conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your colleagues and friends. Explore more resources and join our community at InsideCounselAcademy.com. Please tune in next time for more insights and inspiring stories from successful legal leaders.